All right, fellas, let's get into it. For those of you at home, we found out later today or this afternoon, that it was the most watched sporting event in Fox history. Texas and Alabama. The Roman army invaded Austin, but there was a rebellion. Trevor Knight, I assume you watched this from kickoff to finish. What jumped out at you initially?
I'll tell you what, I was very impressed. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. I was very impressed with the way Quinn Ewers came out, and he didn't look scared. He didn't look like a deer in headlights. He came out and made some really good throws, was competitive until, of course, getting the shoulder injury there. But who I was the most impressed with was Hudson Card. I felt bad for the guy coming in those circumstances because – yeah, they're going to go up real quick because they're on the 3-yard line when Ewers goes out, but still got a huge mountain to climb in front of him. And he just kept coming, got a bum ankle, kept coming to a point where it put him in a position to win the football game. And so that was a hell of a performance by a backup QB to come in there in that type of emotional atmosphere and do what he did. Number 5's one of the best, if not the best football player in college football, in Bijan Robinson. The guy's just the way he's able to make one cut and make people miss is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But the story of the day for me was the Texas defense. Those guys were flying around with their hair on fire. They didn't care who was coming in there. They locked the gate behind them, and they were going to make it a 4-quarter beat down, and I think they did. And Bama was kind of hitting the mouth for most of the game until the very end.
I would agree a lot with that. Hack, were you more impressed with Texas, like with what Trevor was saying, or was there some disappointment about Alabama? It's hard to say what their mindset was, but it was easy to see how it played out. Which one took you, or was it a split of both?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I talked about this a little bit on Thursday. It's not like Texas doesn't have good football players in their program. And Alabama traditionally has struggled with some teams throughout the years of late. Happens early, middle of the season, and then they end up catching their stride. But I think if you're going to ask me to have to pick it, I'm a little bit disappointed in Alabama's discipline. And I know Saban made a big point of that. You know, there was a ton of penalties there. And I think that definitely helped Texas. But I would say a lot of credit needs to go to the Texas Longhorns, especially doing it the way they did. Because I'm going to be completely honest. I think if Quinn Ewers finishes that game with all the reps going into the game plan, I think it's a completely different ball game.
Different how?
You know, I just think it is, man. They had a chance to double
different,
up
like
at
Texas
halftime.
Wins it.
I think it might have been, man. I think they had a ton of momentum. They could have doubled up at halftime. They weren't able to capitalize on that. They missed a chip shot field goal. And that's not to take anything away from Hudson Card. Like I said, I completely agree with your analysis, Trevor, on him.
And they had a drop touchdown in the end zone too.
Correct. So I mean, I really think that very impressed with Texas. And again, it's similar to like our conversation about Florida. You got to continue to do it. Florida ultimately ran into a brick wall, and we'll get into that as well in Kentucky. But, you know, if Texas can continue to show the tenacity they did on defense, get their quarterback room healthy, I think Sark's doing a good job of at least trying to change that culture. And again, it's one of those programs as a college football fan, like you want to see Texas back and competitive just because of the brand, just because of the history. It just feels right. So, very impressed with that. I guess if I was going to say for Alabama, it would just be the lack of discipline. Nick Saban's teams usually don't beat themselves too often, and they gave up a ton of free yards.
Bryce, I'm going to throw 3 things at you. 1, should Alabama still be 1? What did we learn out of Bryce Young tonight? And can Texas roll from here, or do they have a hangover of like a month from this massive moral victory?
Yeah. Look, I still think Alabama's number 1. I don't think you can knock somebody for winning, right? You're going to go into tough matchups. You're going to have, and this is what we talked about before. I mean, Alabama, what they do year in and year out is so impressive on a multitude of different facets, but especially because you are a target from the moment the season ends to the moment the next season starts. Everybody wants to beat Bama. you can't knock a team for winning. So those guys have to show up each, week in and week out and perform, because you're going to get the other team's best. So number one. Number two, what we learned about Bryce Young. I mean, the kid, he's just a gamer, and I think that what we saw tonight, which was really interesting, because I actually look back, man, Alabama has had Julio Jones, Coop, Calvin Ridley, Waddle, Riggs, Judy, Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams. Like, dude, they have had dudes that can absolutely blow the top off.
And that's the last 2 years.
And that 4 in the last 2 years have gone in the first round, or I guess 3 years, and then Jamison Williams too last year. So they have had guys on the outside that just can stretch the field. And when you have that, we all know on this podcast, man, it just makes life easier for you. I didn't see that at all today. I don't know who that guy is that can stretch the field for him. So what I saw at him today was, man, I've kind of put the team on my back. And when you have a corner blitz out of the boundary on a guy to have a drive with 1:30 left, for him to do what he did, you can try. I mean, George, I know we've done some stuff, in the offseason to try to teach that move. That move, when you have bullets flying, is so hard to do. So especially in that moment where you got to have it, he won that game for him today. So my hat's off to him. I mean, he's just so electrifying. It shows you why he won the Heisman last year. It shows you why he's a front runner this year to win the Heisman. So I mean, it's incredible what he does. Number 3, can Texas grow? Look, I think that we learned a lot about Texas today. Just because you find a bass player and a drum player and a guitar player and a singer don't mean you're a band. But what I think that Sark is starting to do now is formulate that band. I think they're starting to pick out names. Hey, this is what we're going to sing. This is how we're going to sing it. And I think guys are starting to. This is the kind of game that I think, as a locker room, that you can pull away from. Trevor and I talked about this before the show. Are there moral victories? No, hell no. There's no moral victories. But I think this is a game that those guys can pull away from and say, hey, we can't stand toe to toe with the Roman army, as George always says, and we can play. We belong to be there. That front 7 is what needs to run the table from here on out. It needs to run through them, because what I saw out of that defense today, and in particular the front 7, if you have dogs up there, the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball was in Alabama's backfield, and it was about 3 yards in their front 7. So that's the kind of stuff that you love seeing in at Hack's Point. It's just always good when Texas is in the mix. And so it was nice to see all those today.
Now, you guys know I always have called Alabama the Roman army, and I'm watching the game. I'm like, all right, first quarter. Then when they broke the 80-yard run, I was like, well, okay, now this is going where I thought. Series after series after series, I thought, Roman army, this is more like the Wichita State Police. I'm like, what are we doing? You can't invade like this. Penalties everywhere, like Hack was saying. Some of them desperation penalties. 3 straight pass interference. That just kind of speaks a little bit about your confidence. Settle back down. Get back in your technique. Play this man one-on-one. Have a, play on a string like the back end they always talk about. So, but I come away with this game with 2 thoughts immediately on the Alabama side. One, we got to watch the games. We got to let these games play out. I'm telling anybody that would listen to me, it's 49-7. No, 49-10. No, 49-7. You got to let it play out. Just like the Ohio State Notre Dame game, Ohio State got in there, found themselves in a real fight, and did not have their fastball and were able to close it out. But they have a general in C.J. Stroud. Bama found themselves needing every second on the clock and a field goal to win. When's the last time Bama needed a field goal to escape? But they have a general leading, really a commander in Saban and a general in Bryce Young. So those guys are obviously impressive. I didn't know Texas had that many dogs, to go with what you guys were saying. Like, they always got these like pretty 5-star players, but dogs.
Yeah.
Who can keep bowing up? 3rd and 2, get off the field, right? 3rd and 1, and we need it on offense. Push through and get your 2 yards. And lastly, and I actually want to do a toast to this man. I've known him. You guys have all played against him. I have so much respect for him. And then to find out it was his job to come up with the defensive game plan against Alabama for 3 months Gary Patterson threw a knuckleball at the Alabama offense, and they needed everything. Coach Patterson is on the a senior advisor for Coach Sark. Great job by Coach Sark picking him up, probably his best pickup in the portal or the offseason of any free agent signing. So to Gary Patterson, first of all, because Texas, you got that type of brain power back there, they're going to be pretty incredible.
What's going on, guys? Rob Doster here, the founder of the Field of 68 and the Field of 12 Media Networks. I wanted to take a quick minute to let you guys know about an exciting new project that we have been working on for the last 3 months. The Almanac, an all-encompassing preview of the 2022-23 college basketball season. We spoke with every single Division I head coach to give you a robust and accurate preview for all 363 Division I college basketball teams. We have predictions for conference finishes for all 32 leagues. We have features on the best freshmen, the best big men, the breakout stars, the coaches on the hot seat, so much more. It is 600,000 words of sheer happiness for the college basketball fan in your life. The Almanac is going to be available for digital purchase on September 26th for just $19.99, but you can pre-order it today using the promo code HOOPS and save 20%. Just hit the link in the description below.